Mike, good morning. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Hey, Dan, I'm doing great, pal. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I am leaning on you to bring us the layman's terms of Ezekiel Elliott. Like, what is the situation and where are we headed? Is he going to be suspended for 6 games starting next week?
Well, as of right now, the ruling that came out on Thursday essentially is that he got an unfair head start in the race to the courthouse, that he filed his lawsuit in Texas before the NFL's internal appeal process had ended. So the appeals court in Louisiana, which has jurisdiction over Texas, said this case is going to be dismissed, which means the NFL is very happy because now the lawsuit that the NFL filed in federal court in New York City after the internal appeal of the 6-game suspension was finalized, that will be the primary lawsuit that controls this case, and the NFL believes that in the New York courts, because of the Tom Brady outcome last year, the NFL will win. But, look, it's not a given that this suspension begins immediately. The NFL has said that Elliott has appeal rights in the Texas lawsuit still. He's got 14 days to decide whether to file what's called a petition for rehearing. And I asked NFL spokesman Joe Lockhart about this within the last hour. How do you reconcile an immediate suspension with Elliott having a 14-day window to decide what to do next in that Texas lawsuit? He says it's apples and oranges. I don't think it is, and I think what we're going to see today is an effort to give Elliott that full 2 weeks, which would mean he'll definitely play next week against the 49ers, but then we could see that 6-game suspension kick in at some point down the road, at some point before the season ends. And we're getting closer to a point, Dan, where it could bleed into the postseason if the Cowboys make it there.
Do you think there's a power play going on at all between the commissioner, Jerry Jones, the fact that Jerry doesn't, he could be standing in the way of Roger and his new contract. Is there any mediation that can take place here is what I guess I'm trying to get at, that Ezekiel Elliott's the pawn? Yeah,
there's always a power play, and it's various different levels. It's the commissioner and Jerry Jones. It's the NFL and the NFL Players Association. This is about the broader relationship and who has the power, because when you have collective bargaining between management and labor, whoever has the power, in order to give up that power, you get other power in return for it. So if the NFLPA wants to have a more fair process for disciplining players, that's fine, NFLPA, but what are you going to give us? That's the NFL's position. So there's different levels of power. And I don't know that Elliott's the pawn in all of this. I mean, he's in this predicament for a reason. He did do something that has gotten himself into this scrutiny and into this trouble. But, the fact that it lingers, the fact that there are these various lawsuits that are pending as a check against the NFL's power, it is exhausting, and it is hard to figure out where it's all going to go. But this is part of what you see when the NFL decides to exercise its power aggressively. And mediation, I think that's the one thing we can be sure about. Settlement, mediation, negotiation, compromise. I'd be shocked if anyone gives at all on any of this. I think the courts are eventually decided. It's just a question of when.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, joining us. Our poll question yesterday, you could have Cam Newton or Carson Wentz the next 5 years. Carson Wentz ran away with this. How would you vote?
Yeah, I'd go with Carson Wentz. He's younger, and he's got less wear and tear. But the thing is, he's going to have as much, if not more, wear and tear. He needs to change his style. Look at Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has an uncanny ability to avoid contact. He weaves through traffic. He knows when to take a dive. He knows when to hit the ground. We saw him do that, I think it was Sunday night against the Chiefs. He had a couple of guys around him, and instead of plowing into them, he hit the ground. You don't get hit, you don't get hurt. What do we see Wentz do? He drops his shoulder constantly. He embraces contact. Eventually, one of these days, he's going to miss a game or two. He's going to miss a month or two. He's going to have off-season surgery that screws him up going into the next year. That's my concern with both Newton and Wentz, and I think Newton is the product of 7 years of playing the way that Carson Wentz is currently playing.
That Luke Kuechly situation, that did you see where he pointed to his shoulder, Mike, as if that was what was bothering him, and then you find out that he's in concussion protocol?
Yeah, I thought it was the shoulder, and he did come off the field a lot better than last year. Remember that just harrowing scene? It was heartbreaking. He was crying. Look, here's the bottom line. How many concussions are there before you get to a point where the doctors won't clear you to play? It isn't a clear, bright line issue, and I think the more of these concussions you have, the more careful the doctors are going to be before they say, go ahead and go back and set yourself up to get yet another concussion. And I think with Luke Kuechly, assuming he wants to keep playing, and there's no reason to think he doesn't, at some point you just have so many of these that I think it becomes impossible. Remember Javed Best, the running back from Cal, who was the first-round pick of the Lions? It's been 6 years ago, but it was a kind of an innocuous fall down. He hit his head, and he could never get cleared after that. And I think you run the risk, if you have enough concussions in your lifetime, that no doctor is going to sign his or her name to the piece of paper saying you're good to go.
The commissioner says there's no policy change for the anthem. What do you expect to happen this weekend?
Here's what I think will happen now this weekend, who knows? But next week, when the owners get together for their previously scheduled meeting, my first thought as of Tuesday was what the league was going to say to the players is, here is an alternative platform for addressing any and all social concerns that you have, and now you will stand for the anthem. Mandatory, edict, mandate, you do it our way. I think at some point between Tuesday and Wednesday, they realized that maybe they should try to get the players on board with this, sell them on this idea that we're giving you this platform. Here's everything we're doing to try to help bring light to your concerns. Now, will you please consider standing for the anthem? I think they realize it's better to do that first to get them to buy in, to get them to sign off. And then if they don't, they tell you you're going to stand for the anthem. I mean, I think that's where this ultimately goes. If the players don't choose to stand for the anthem, they're going to be told to stand for the anthem, because I think that the league realizes that is the only way out of this box.
Yeah, I was told yesterday that maybe a donation, that there's going to be negotiations on how do we make this equitable, functional for everybody. You can still do or say what you need to do, but stand for the anthem. Let's don't hurt business. We'll make donations to whatever you want to, or somehow you're going to come up with a pool of money for the players with this issue. McLovin has a question for you before we say goodbye.
Okay, we've been giving Fritzy a hard time because he doesn't know a lot of current Houston Astros. I was curious, Mike, Mr. Football, how in tune you are with baseball. Can you name 5 players who are currently alive in the postseason? Baseball players.
Really? No, I can't.
Well, we were going to bet. We were going to bet on it.
How about
No.
the other? Can you name 5?
Wait! I can't. I watched the Yankees game the other night, so I probably could come up with a few of them. Didi Gregorius, right? I can just remember names that I heard the other night. Aaron Judge, Aroldis Chapman. That's 3, and that's it.
Okay. If you can get 2 more, you're a bigger Yankee fan than Fritzy is an Astro fan, and you're not even a Yankee fan.
I can't name one Pittsburgh Pirate, and I'm a Pirates fan. I can't name one. Is Andrew McCutcheon still on the team?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the one.
Yeah. All right. That's that. You know what? I think he's more of a baseball fan than you are, Fritzy.
I think you might be right about that.
Mike, thank you.
I've been watching. You know what? Postseason baseball. I mean, if you've got 5 hours to kill, it's not a bad. It's not a bad watch.
I'll see you on Sunday, Mike.
See you, buddy.
That's Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. Pro Football Talk Live, NBC, Sunday Night Football.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.